A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the first Lifelong Learning Lab organized by the Lifelong Learning Platform. My name is Arja Krauchenberg and I'm the president of the platform. And before we start into this new format that we have created during the pandemic, let me mention some housekeeping rules and give you some information about the development of the afternoon. So first, let me point out that there is translation available English, Portuguese, and Portuguese English by clicking on the little icon of the globe at the bottom of your screen. That will bring you to the other language if you need that. Could you please, Rui, tell that to our Portuguese listeners? Thank you. Rui, por favor.
Olá, yes, here I am. Yes, here I am. Muito boa tarde, sou a Arja, presidente da Lifelong Learning Platform. Quero dar as boas-vindas a todos e a todas. E, em primeiro lugar, gostava de explicar que existe tradução simultânea de português para inglês e de inglês para português, portanto, nos dois sentidos. E para isso tem que ir ao ícone do mundo, embaixo do lado direito. Embaixo do lado direito há um pequeno ícone com a esfera do mundo e carregam aí e escolhem o idioma português. Neste caso, para seguir português, escolhem o idioma português. Se não quiserem ouvir nada do idioma original, fazem desligar o idioma original. E carregando no português, vão ouvir sempre a interpretação para português. Ok, I've explained it to them.
Muito obrigada. So thank you very much. Yes, we want to make sure that everybody can follow us correctly. And secondly, I would like to inform you that this event is being recorded, as you have probably heard at the beginning of the meeting. It will be published later on our YouTube channel. So if you do not want to appear in that recording, please switch off your cameras. But we would like, if possible, that at least a number of people stay visible, because it's very, very unpleasant for the speakers if you only stare into sort of black holes with names on them. Talking about names, we would also ask you to please name yourself if you haven't done so yet. There's a little icon in the upper right-hand corner of your image on the screen. If you hover over that with your mouse, you will have this little icon and you can rename yourself and put your correct name. That will help us to identify people and not just have follow a sequence of numbers or letters there. Thank you very much. Thirdly, you all know in the meantime, I guess, that you should keep your microphones muted while other people are speaking. So if you would please do that as well. Lastly, I would like to inform you that we will use Mentimeter at certain moments during our sessions today. So if you have your mobile phones at hand, or if you can switch to a different window on your computer, that will also be helpful for the quizzes and the Q&A that we will be doing during the session this afternoon. If you have any technical issues, if you go on the participants list, you will see quite a number of people that where it says support. So you can contact our support team in the chat, and they will be happy to help you out with any technical problems that you might have. I hope so far all the housekeeping is clear, and that I would then go into the session itself. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the Lifelong Learning Platform for those of you who do not know us or who do not know us well. As the name says, we are a platform for more than 40 European networks, all active in diverse sectors of education, formal, non-formal, and informal. And our member organizations not only cover all these sectors, but also all ages, from cradle to grave, early childhood to adult education, including intergenerational learning. So why are we here today, and what would we like to achieve with our lab? As already mentioned, this is an idea born during the crisis, when all our activities had to be moved online, and we saw the ever-increasing need for capacity building among our members, and also for transsectoral cooperation that was really key during the pandemic. We decided to harness this opportunity. You all know there's always an opportunity in every crisis, and to organize this event as a kind of tryout for future labs that should strengthen the connection between the European level and the grassroots level. So the first day of this event, as you probably already have seen from the program, is dedicated to the European level, to decision-making in education and training, the role of policymakers, education stakeholder and civil society, and how these decision-making processes can be influenced by you, the general public, and the representatives of different organizations. The two first sessions will be more informative, and the third one, after the break, you will be asked for your contributions during the active workshops that you have signed up for. As I said already before, also in the Mentimeter, you will have your say. Tomorrow morning will be dedicated to a very concrete national example, if you like, to Portugal, the country that currently holds the EU Council presidency. And here you'll be able to discuss very concrete actions on the national level. We would like to come out of these different sessions with some concrete policy recommendations to be presented during the Conference of the Future of Europe that reflect your needs and wishes and take on board your suggestions of how to solve the challenges that you are facing. Without further ado, I would now like to give the floor. Well, I wish it could be the floor. I'd really be glad to meet with all of you again in person. But for now, I'll give the screen to Gina Ebner, one of my distinguished predecessors as former president of the Lifelong Learning Platform, Secretary General of EAEA, the European Association for the Education of Adults, who will introduce to you the Lifelong Learning Guidebook. Please, Gina, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Arja. And I can only repeat that as well. I would be so happy to see you in person. I'd be thrilled to be in Lisbon. Well, unfortunately, not yet, but I'm already packing suitcases just to be ready. So thank you very much for having me and giving me the opportunity to introduce a bit of the EU level decision making. Now, you might look at the agenda and go, she has 20 minutes and it's about EU decision making. Well, it's not going to be a lecture on how things work exactly. It's really meant to give you a bit of a taste of a view of some of the key issues. And we were planning to do that in a playful way. So please don't expect anything academic. Get your smartphones, tablets, laptops ready, because we're going to go into Mentimeter in a moment now. We've had some technical issues with that. And in a way, I think it's not really a problem of our digital skills, maybe a problem of the software, never mind. So Andrea is going to, from the Lifelong Learning Platform, who has prepared everything so well, and now we do have some problems, but let's go ahead and look at the Mentimeter. The way it's going to work, we'll ask you a few questions. You try and find the right answer. I will give you and explain a bit the right answer and give a bit of a context in which we are working at the EU level. Okay? Can we get going? Can we start the Mentimeter? So you open a new page in your browser. you put in menti.com. So at the top of the page, you have the access. You go to menti.com, and then you will be asked for a code. And that code is also at the top of the page, 46485518. So at the top of the page, menti.com, 46 48 55 18. Okay, in a moment we're going to get started and we're getting warmed up. So a question that is fairly straightforward. Andrea, let's get going. You have about 30 seconds. Who is the current Commissioner for Education? You have 4 options. Please vote for the correct answer. Ursula von der Leyen, Nicola Schmidt, Margarida Chinas, Maria Gabriel. Okay. Time's up. And yes, it's not only by popular vote, but indeed Maria Gabriel is the current Commissioner for, and let me read the exact title that she has, Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. So she is the one responsible for that area. For people like me who work in adult education or maybe vet, there's the second person that is important, and that is Mr. Nicola Schmidt. He is also for jobs and social rights. And in his commission, in his portfolio, we also have skills. And Ursula von der Leyen is the president, and Margarida Chinas is the commissioner for and promoting our European way of life. Okay, so here are some of the key people. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so question 2. Who are the 2 legislators of the EU? So the institutions that legislate. Commission and Council, Commission and Parliament, Parliament and Council. You see, it's getting quite complicated very quickly. Time's up. Okay. You have the correct answer, European Parliament and Council, and the other options are not legally correct. But of course, you have the Commission that proposes legislation, and then the Parliament and the Council who adopt them officially after negotiations. We'll come back to that. But please remember, there are 3 main institutions that are responsible for legislation: the Commission that proposes it, the Parliament that has been elected by the people of Europe, and the Council, which consists of the representatives of the member states. So remember the number 3, it will come back again. So let's go and continue. Okay, oops, there are already some answers, but never mind, oops. Well, so the next question, I'm going to go back. The next question was, education is an EU competence. And the answer that was meant to be given was true, false, or maybe. Now, as the Mentimeter has given up its ghost, and in a way I was a bit afraid of that, but EU competence. Yes, no, well, it's too difficult to do a hand raising, but one of the key issues that is very, very important is education is not an EU competence. So there are no directives coming from the EU level that say education has to, or the education systems in the member states have to do this and have to do that. This is, of course, something that the member states find very, very important because they get to define their education systems. We could discuss in a very separate seminar on the impact of the EU on education policies. We do believe that this is the case, but it's of course a bit different than in other areas where the EU can have a directive. And of course, it does have a bit of an issue when it comes to advocacy, you know, civil society having an impact, because we, of course, in civil society, Lifelong Learning Platform as the platform, but also the individual organizations like EAEA, but also the parents and the students and so on, try to have an impact. But it's not enough just to talk to the Parliament or the Commission. It is also important that the relevant members of our organizations talk to their governments, because changes or impact can only be achieved between the EU level and the national level. So that is one of the key things that we need to consider. I think some of the issues are quite similar in some of the countries. I think Germany, for example, there's a lot of, most of the education responsibilities are actually at the Länder level. I know that here in Belgium, it's the same case. Okay, let's move on, if we manage with Menti, to the next question. Okay. What's MFF? One of those acronyms and abbreviations we'd like to use. So the EU budget, the EU plan for the next 7 years, the multi-annual financial framework. It's negotiated through trilogues, multi-annual fiscal framework. Okay, let's see. A few more seconds left. And time's up. Yes, actually more than one answers are correct here, and the most direct answer, the multi-annual financial framework. And congratulations to everyone, because this is actually quite a mouthful and already quite complex. It is agreed on for 7 years. It concerns the budget, and it is negotiated through trilogues. Again, the number 3 turns up again as a former student of literature. I like the concept of 3 because it is a number that is quite significant. So Commission, Member States, and Parliament negotiate that. And probably you remember from last year until this year, long negotiations and discussions of how much budget the EU should get and which part and so on. So that's very important, because also the programs that are helping to finance education, training, lifelong learning are part of that budget. Okay, let's move on. 7. So now we're again at number 3. What do trilogues consist of? So interinstitutional negotiations, tripartite meetings, a type of cake with 3 ingredients, and so on. Choose one or more. Yes, and again, people who are very well informed, and 3 possible answers. The most precise answer is, of course, the one that was chosen: tripartite meetings between Parliament, Council and the Commission. But it's, of course, the procedure to agree on EU legislation and interinstitutional, the 3 negotiations. This is one of the key features, the negotiations that are called trilogue, and again, the 3 institutions working. Okay, let's move on. What is the European education area? Again, you might have more than one correct answer: a mobility program, an initiative to foster cooperation, an ambitious agenda to create a European area of education, a perimeter around European schools. A few more seconds. Time's up. Yes, so the 2 correct answers are the ones that got most votes. It is about fostering cooperation between the member states and their education and training systems. And it is the agenda to create a European area of education by 25. So this is basically the overarching agenda for education on the EU level. Let's move on to the next one. What's the new skills agenda? Okay, the continuation of the 2016 action points on skills, the policy priorities on skills developments in Europe, a policy to support employment, a policy to support social welfare and cohesion. Time's up. Yes, and we have 3 correct answers. The main one is a set of policy priorities on skills development, but also it's meant to support employment. It is building on on skills priorities that have been in place before. It is basically the other side, the sister, brother, sibling strategy to the European education area. It looks at skills for work and life, and it sort of is the agenda for that. And in a way, I would say, although it's not really directly a policy to support social welfare and cohesion, if we see it within the context of the European Pillar for Social Rights, it is part of that as well. And we know that education, training and lifelong learning are, of course, the main packages that make all these things possible. Okay, do we still have a question? Or, yeah. Okay, so you can see the leaderboard. Thank you everyone for joining us for that little exercise. I hope you found it a bit more interesting than just a few, PowerPoint slides. Let me quickly wrap up a few things. So we are talking about EU level. We know it's not actually the EU who decides it. It needs to be the member states. We have 3 institutions that need to work together to make it possible. And the 2 main, for example, through trilogues, I think we missed a question about programs. Of course, there are programs like Erasmus Plus and the European Social Fund that really help support financing various initiatives. And we have two main strategies, the European education area and the skills agenda, that are meant to drive this forward. A few words about civil society. We, of course, try to intervene on behalf of civil society in education and training. We try to work with all the levels, and we have left out, of course, a lot of other actors like the European Economic and Social Committee, the Committee of the Regions, and the national government. So of course it's much broader, but we do try and represent lifelong learning in all these areas, with some challenges like the competence question, but hopefully you have gained a bit of an insight, and I think in the next session you will actually be able to meet some of the very high level representatives of the organizations that I have mentioned. So thank you very much. Sorry for some of the technical issues. I hope it still worked out for you. So thank you and bye.
Thank you very much, Gina, for this very vivid overview of the European institutions and how they work together and how they need to be understood. So we will now go, as Gina already announced, to our panel discussion, and I would then like to invite our moderator, Susana Oliveira, muito bem-vinda, to introduce our panelists, please.
Greetings everyone from Lisbon. It looks like the Eurovision Song Contest or something like that.
We can hardly hear you, Susana. Can you make it a bit louder, please?
Can you hear me better now? Yes? So, okay. I was welcoming everyone. We are here in Lisbon, but yes, we are now moving to a roundtable, which we would pretty much like to be a round table, a real one. But yeah, so this roundtable will be about the EU agenda in education and training. What is the role of policymakers, the role of education stakeholders, and the role of civil society in all these that Gina was mentioning. So how do we cooperate at an European level? My name is Susana Oliveira. I am one of the Lifelong Learning Platform Vice Presidents on behalf of the European Association for the Education of Adults. And I would like now to welcome our panelists, which are Janine Costa on representation of the Portuguese Presidency, Margarida Marques, member of the European Parliament, Themis Christophidou, which is the Director General of DG EAEA, so Education and Culture, also here. Manuela Geleng, the Director for Skills from DG Employment. João da Silva, member of the European Economic and Social Committee. And Chris Harrison, a former member of the Lifelong Learning Steering Committee. And I would immediately give the floor to Janine Costa, thanking all of you to be here and to be able to give us the honor to understand a bit better how does the EU agenda works in education and training.
Boa tarde a todas e boa tarde a todos. Gostaria, em primeiro lugar, de agradecer a Lifelong Learning Platform por me ter convidado a participar nesta mesa redonda e apresentar o processo que conduziu ao estabelecimento do quadro estratégico da cooperação europeia em matéria de educação e formação, o que nós designamos por ET 2030. Queria ainda saudar os meus distintos colegas de painel, bem como todos os quantos participem através dos seus ecrãs nesta mesa redonda e acompanham a mesma a partir de Lisboa, de Bruxelas e de outras capitais e cidades europeias. Eu represento aqui a presidência portuguesa, mas na verdade eu sou a conselheira de educação da representação de Portugal junto da União Europeia e durante a presidência eu presido igualmente ao Comitê da Educação, que é a instância preparatória do Conselho na sua vertente Educação. Indo logo para a apresentação da minha intervenção, como devem saber, a resolução do Conselho sobre um quadro estratégico para a cooperação europeia no domínio da educação e da formação, rumo ao espaço europeu da educação e mais além, 2021-2030, foi adotada em fevereiro passado, após intensas negociações com grande espírito de cooperação e no âmbito de um processo que nós chamaríamos de co-criação entre os Estados-membros e a Comissão. Além de se configurar como a resposta do Conselho à comunicação da Comissão Europeia, publicada em setembro do ano passado, relativa à concretização do Espaço Europeu da Educação até 2025, a resolução vem estabelecer o quadro estratégico para a cooperação em matéria de educação e formação para a próxima década, estabelecendo 5 prioridades estratégicas, questões e ações concretas, bem como 7 metas a nível da União Europeia a serem alcançadas até 2025 e até 2030. O ET 2030 apoiará os esforços dos Estados-membros para melhorar os sistemas nacionais de educação e formação, com a ajuda de ferramentas complementares ao nível da União Europeia, de atividades de aprendizagem mútua e intercâmbio das melhores práticas através daquilo que nós denominamos de método aberto de coordenação. Bom, embora o quadro tenha sido já estabelecido em fevereiro passado, ainda permanece trabalho a fazer, uma vez que os Estados-membros e a Comissão terão que estabelecer em conjunto um mecanismo e uma estrutura de governação até ao final do corrente ano. O estabelecimento do quadro estratégico do ET 2030 foi sempre considerado como a prioridade máxima para a educação e formação pelo trio de presidências alemã, portuguesa e eslovena, aliás, como consta do roadmap do trio para a educação e formação estabelecida em junho de 2020. E uma vez que o trio estava ciente que o ET 2030 é e era essencial e será essencial para a orientação da cooperação europeia em matéria de educação e formação durante toda uma década, e uma vez que este quadro se destina a apoiar também a concretização do Espaço Europeu da Educação até 2025, ficou claro que a resolução estabelecendo o ET 2030 deveria ser adotada pelo Conselho no início de 2021. Por conseguinte, o trio delineou em 2020 um roadmap para facilitar o processo conducente à adoção desta resolução, o qual foi partilhado com a Comissão e os Estados-membros ainda em 2020. Assim, o trio iniciou o processo que denominamos de cocriação em 2020, ao congregar as posições dos Estados-membros e as contribuições da Comissão, mas também ouvindo alguns stakeholders e partes interessadas na matéria, e também ao promover, ainda sob a presidência alemã, várias discussões sobre a matéria, e isso em diferentes fóruns. Por exemplo, na reunião do Grupo de Alto Nível sobre Políticas de Educação e Formação em outubro passado, ao nível do Conselho, através de um debate político realizado durante o Conselho de Educação, que se transformou numa videoconferência dos Ministros da Educação em 30 de novembro, e também ao nível do Comitê de Educação. Além disso, e através deste processo, ficou claro que antes de a presidência portuguesa apresentar o projeto de resolução a ser adotado em fevereiro, era de facto necessário promover mais discussões mais específicas e até mais técnicas. E para o efeito, o trio de presidências organizou 2 workshops informais, em linha, em novembro e dezembro de 2020, com a participação de todos os Estados-membros e da Comissão, workshops dedicados respectivamente à estrutura e mecanismo de governação do novo quadro estratégico e também às metas, indicadores e benchmarks a nível da União Europeia em matéria de educação e formação. Bem, ao mesmo tempo, e ao longo de todo o processo de discussão e negociação, a presidência portuguesa, auxiliado pelo trio de presidências, assegurou um estreito diálogo e cooperação com a Comissão, quer a nível formal, no âmbito do Comitê de Educação, quer a nível informal. Assim, com base nas discussões e debates havidos com Estados-membros e a Comissão, ainda em 2020, e isso tanto a nível formal como informal, e tendo em conta igualmente os principais contributos da Comissão fornecidos através da Agenda de Competências para a Europa, o novo Plano de Ação para a Educação Digital e particularmente a comunicação da Comissão sobre a concretização do Espaço Europeu da Educação até 2025, a presidência portuguesa apresentou no início de janeiro de 2021 um projeto de resolução que teve em conta muitos dos principais elementos apresentados pela Comissão na sua comunicação sobre o Espaço Europeu da Educação, bem como as posições dos Estados-membros. Assim, como é habitual nos documentos a serem adotados pelo Conselho, nomeadamente aquele que nós denominamos de iniciativas não legislativas, que podem ser ou de iniciativa da própria Presidência ou mesmo uma proposta da Comissão, assim como disse, a proposta de resolução foi examinada pelo Comitê de Educação ao longo de janeiro e no início de fevereiro, em 5 reuniões do Comitê, antes da sua adoção em 18 de fevereiro, através de um procedimento escrito, uma vez que não tivemos a realização formal de um conselho na sua vertente de educação. Devo dizer-vos que foi a primeira vez que, pelo menos no âmbito da educação e da formação, que utilizamos uma metodologia de trabalho, combinando debates informais e debates formais, e no âmbito de um processo de cocriação tão intenso quanto próximo, e isso com a participação e o apoio dos parceiros do trio de presidência, dos Estados-membros e da Comissão. É verdade que foi necessário algum esforço adicional e mais tempo dedicado, mas essa metodologia de trabalho ajudou-nos a alcançar o objetivo visado, e isso num curto espaço de tempo. O estabelecimento de um novo quadro estratégico que será um instrumento essencial para orientar e apoiar a cooperação europeia em matéria de educação e formação até 2030, inclusive com vista à concretização do espaço europeu. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Thank you very much, Janine. I think we will have the chance to ask you a bit more in depth how that worked. But I will now like to hear Margarida Marques, member of the European Parliament. Thank you also for being with us today. And please, the floor is yours.
Muito obrigada, Susana. Muito obrigada pelo convite e felicito todos os organizadores e gostava de cumprimentar todos os participantes e todos os membros do painel, deixando aqui uma palavra especial à Themis, Christophidou, que hoje dirige aquela que foi a minha primeira casa na Comissão Europeia nos anos 90. Foi-me pedido, foi-me sugerido que falasse aqui sobre o processo de negociação do quadro financeiro plurianual, ou seja, do orçamento plurianual da União Europeia 2021-2027 e as suas implicações nas políticas educativas da União Europeia. E eu começaria por dizer o seguinte: quando, em 19 de julho passado, os líderes europeus se puseram de acordo sobre a resposta europeia à crise, em 2 pilares, o quadro financeiro plurianual 21-27 e o Fundo de Recuperação, o chamado Next Generation EU, foi um acordo, como todos se lembram, um acordo difícil que levou 5 dias e 4 noites. Foi o Conselho Europeu mais longo da história da União Europeia e os líderes chegaram a um acordo. Chegaram a um acordo que assentou, em primeiro lugar, não pedir mais dinheiro aos Estados-membros dos chamados frugais, que tinham sérias reservas em aumentar a sua contribuição para o orçamento da União Europeia, e, ao mesmo tempo, criar um fundo de recuperação em que a Comissão Europeia vai aos mercados para constituir esse fundo. A propósito, desde ontem que a Comissão Europeia está em condições de ir aos mercados para constituir esse fundo que vai apoiar a recuperação económica e social pós-pandemia. Este acordo existiu ao fim de 5 dias e 4 noites. A questão que se nos coloca é: quem pagou a fatura? Se não se pediu mais dinheiro aos Estados-membros, se mantiveram os envelopes financeiros dos Estados-membros, quem pagou a fatura? E quem pagou a fatura foram exatamente os programas europeus, a começar pelo programa Erasmus. E foi isso que gerou descontentamento no Parlamento Europeu. Daí nós próprios, o Parlamento Europeu, ter aprovado uma resolução em que identificava 15 programas que eram particularmente prioritários para o Parlamento, na totalidade de cerca de 70 programas e fundos europeus. E nesses 15 programas, a que nós chamamos Flagship Programs, está exatamente o programa Erasmus. E, portanto, o que é que o Parlamento Europeu conseguiu? O Parlamento Europeu conseguiu, na negociação com a presidência alemã, convencer o Conselho, pela primeira vez, a aumentar em, como nós dizemos, dinheiro novo, o orçamento da União Europeia. Não se trata de dinheiro que cai do céu, porque o dinheiro não cai do céu, tratou-se de mobilizar dinheiro que resulta das multas do não cumprimento das regras europeias de concorrência, normalmente pago pelas empresas, canalizar esse financiamento para o orçamento da União Europeia. E aí fomos buscar 16 mil milhões de euros, dos quais 11 mil milhões são dinheiro novo. E destes 16 mil milhões, 2,2 mil milhões foram exatamente para o programa Erasmus. E porquê? Porque o programa Erasmus era um programa decisivo para o Parlamento Europeu. O programa Erasmus trazia novos desafios relativamente ao passado. E todos nós conhecemos a importância do programa Erasmus+, não preciso de estar aqui a sublinhar a importância do programa. O programa Erasmus+, hoje é o chapéu para todos os programas de educação e formação profissional aos diversos níveis de ensino, tendo como destinatários alunos, formandos, professores, formadores, universidades, escolas, estabelecimentos de ensino superior, pessoas que fazem uma formação ao longo da vida, educação de adultos, formação para línguas, todas essas dimensões estão nesse programa Erasmus. E depois queríamos introduzir novos desafios no programa Erasmus. Criar universidades europeias, ou seja, redes de colaboração entre várias universidades. Queríamos criar centros de excelência profissional, plataformas dos centros de excelência profissional. Queríamos integrar o Discover EU no programa Erasmus. E, portanto, tínhamos outras ambições, designadamente lançar academias de professores Erasmus, criar a escola digital, termos a noção de que o digital e a transição para o digital nos traz sérios desafios, designadamente em matéria geracional, e nós não podemos estar a separar gerações, e temos que valorizar esta dimensão, por exemplo, na educação de adultos, no sentido que também as pessoas que hoje já abandonaram o sistema educativo há muitos anos possam de facto adquirir estas competências digitais e, portanto, não tínhamos outra solução senão aumentar o orçamento da União, o orçamento do programa Erasmus. E queríamos também que esta colaboração existisse no interior da União Europeia, mas também numa cooperação com países terceiros. E foi por isso que nós aumentámos o financiamento do programa Erasmus em 2,2 mil milhões de euros, a preços de 2018, dando assim à Comissão Europeia, aos Estados-membros, uma maior capacidade de agirem em matéria de política educativa. E quando a Janine Costa referiu o compromisso em matéria de criação do espaço educativo europeu, ou outros compromissos políticos em matéria de política educativa, temos aqui os financiamentos necessários. Antes de terminar, só queria acrescentar o seguinte. Eu referi inicialmente que a resposta europeia à crise assentava em 2 pilares. O quadro financeiro plurianual, o chamado MFF 21-27, e o Next Generation EU, ou seja, o Fundo de Recuperação. A parte mais importante do Fundo de Recuperação é exatamente o mecanismo de recuperação e resiliência. Os Estados-membros apresentaram à Comissão Europeia os seus planos nacionais de recuperação e resiliência, que serão financiados por este Fundo de Recuperação. E o Parlamento Europeu exigiu que 10% do financiamento que os Estados-membros vão receber para financiar o seu plano de recuperação e resiliência sejam usados na educação. E, portanto, cada Estado-membro tem que considerar as políticas educativas dentro dos seus planos nacionais de recuperação e resiliência, sendo que isso deve cobrir 10% do financiamento que vão receber da União Europeia. E, portanto, digamos que do lado do Parlamento Europeu são estas contribuições que nós trabalhamos nestas diferentes dimensões. Eu era correlatora com um colega polaco para o quadro financeiro plurianual e negociadora por parte do Parlamento Europeu do quadro financeiro plurianual e, de facto, acho que foi um grande valor acrescentado o termos conseguido aumentar o financiamento do orçamento da União Europeia, o termos conseguido criar um fundo de recuperação que está assente no orçamento da União Europeia e o termos conseguido aumentar o financiamento para a educação. E muito obrigada.
Thank you, Margarida. I think that we all recognize that we have a panel who we see as education friends, let's say, lifelong learning friends. But it's really glad to see when we have a majority of Portuguese participants in this lab. And the fact that the lab is focused, this first lab is focused on the European policies and in the Portuguese policies for lifelong learning. It's really good to see how you and Janine are great examples of cooperation and the way we can advocate and lobby for lifelong learning in Europe. And thank you both for your great job doing that. I would now give the floor to Themis Christophidou, Director General of DG AG, which probably will follow the discussion that or the flow of conversation that Margarida was telling us. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Susana. Dear Margarida, it's an honor for us to count you in the members of the EAG family, and you're always welcome back home. Always welcome. Dear colleagues, I had made a promise to Arja and Brikena about a month ago that whatever happens, I'll be here, and I usually keep my promises. I will maybe not be able to stay very long, but I will leave you in the able hands of my colleague, Gyula Chere, head of unit. Allow me to make a few comments. Indeed, Margarida gave a very clear overview of how the European Parliament as always, has been our big supporter in both terms, budgetary terms for education, training and skills, but not only budgetary terms, but also in terms of policy input. They are a very precious allies for us. And I'm grateful for her work in the whole MFF discussion. Now, I think that the inception and implementation process that is leading to the construction of the European education area is a well-suited example of working together with stakeholders. In a moment, I will go through the key steps that led to the adoption of the communication on achieving the European education area last September. But first, a few words on the initiative. Some words have already been said. I'll try to be brief. So this is a policy agenda embracing a future-looking, holistic, and people-oriented vision of education. It aims to contribute to strengthening the resilience of European education and training systems to face the digital and the green transitions. At the same time, it supports the lifelong learning approach and the principle of quality and inclusive education for all. While member states do retain their full competences, and they are often quite jealous of keeping their competences over the organization of their education and training systems, the EU plays a supporting and supplementing role. I need to say in brackets that this pandemic actually led the member state to ask for the EU to play a bigger role. And this is very interesting. When in trouble, the EU level becomes a lot more precious. That's a very good thing. It's our role and duty as European Commission to, hand in hand with member states, set priorities for policy cooperation in education and training. The European education area has not started from scratch, of course. It is built on the achievements of a long-standing tradition of European cooperation in education and training. This cooperation led to the creation of a European space with shared objectives and targets where education stakeholders could take an active role and actually create a common knowledge base through mutual learning, evidence building, and analysis. In 2019, the Council invited the Commission to take further steps and to create a genuine European education area and to develop its goals, objectives, and scope. In her political guidelines, President von der Leyen committed to making this area a reality by 2025. The College of Commissioners adopted the communication on achieving the European education area after extensive consultations and a lot of preparatory work. Part of the technical preparations was to conduct an external assessment of the tools and the deliverables of the ET 2020 cooperation framework. We also set up a panel of international experts to advise the Commission on future trends. We engaged extensively with stakeholders between 2018 and 2020 through public and targeted events. In 2019, DG AG organized the Forum on the Future of Learning, which provided an open platform for over 360 policymakers, stakeholders, experts, and the general public to discuss key issues. This was held back-to-back with the Civil Society Day, co-organized by the Lifelong Learning Platform, which gathered 32 organizations. In 2020, we organized several other targeted consultations. Key representatives such as teachers or higher education stakeholders were invited to events to exchange directly with the Commissioner, with Commissioner Maria Gabriel on the upcoming initiative. We also launched an open public consultation to gather the view of citizens, of public and private institutions and organizations on the switch to distance and online learning during the pandemic. The results of this consultation helped inform the education package that we launched in September 2020, which comprises the new Digital Education Action Plan and the communication on the European education area. Following the publication of the communication, as the capstone of the policy-making process, the Council adopted a resolution on a strategic framework for European cooperation in education and training towards the European education area. In this resolution, the Council endorsed the achievement and further development of the EEA as the overarching objective of cooperation at the European level for the next decade. Now, all this does not mean that joint work ends here. On the contrary, we will continue to work together towards the European education area through, as always, transparent and consistent dialogue and networking with all the relevant stakeholders. And I thank you for this event and for all the work you are doing with us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I expect that you now are listening myself a bit better than before, because I was having some problems. Yes, thank you. It's good to know that you are cooperating. We sometimes, between our institutions, especially at the EU level, we ask ourselves if DG EAC and DG EMPL and the Parliament, the Commission, do they listen themselves? Do they discuss among themselves? And it's really good to know that yes, of course, and of course you are confirming that to us. I would now ask Manuela Geleng from Skills, from DG EMPL, to speak also a little bit about cooperation in DG EMPL. Please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you all. Yes, I have been asked to speak about how the skills agenda came about and what its aim are. And I think before starting doing that, I should say that actually the skills agenda, together with the European education area and the digital education action plans, are the three main initiatives that the Commission has taken under this mandate to give a decisive step forward on the first principle of the European Pillar of Social Rights, which actually says that everyone in Europe should have access to quality education, training, and lifelong learning. So these are really three initiatives that are really key making progress, but obviously, and that's what's the purpose of the discussion today, it's not just the Commission alone that can achieve progress. And indeed, coming now to the skills agenda, I do think that it was already clear before the pandemic that big transitions were before us, with the green and the digital, obviously we all know what it meant in the last year and a half, and the aging, which obviously puts enormous pressure on our societies and our economy, because it means that there is a constant need of upskilling and reskilling. And the pandemic and the recovery actually is just putting more pressure on ensuring that this transition happen in a fair way, leaving nobody behind. And when we look at that, obviously initial education and training are fundamental for ensuring that those that enter the labor market have the right skills, but the bulk of the people that are on the labor market are the adult population. And it's because of that, coming back now to the European Pillar of Social Rights and calling on the Porto Summit, which was really a landmark in this area, has set a target of 60% of all adults should participate in training by 2030 every year. Really to focus how important the focusing on skills in the adult population is. So how? Clear when we speak about training the adult population, and mainly the adult working population, working age population, it's clear that we have a very fragmented landscape, and therefore the skills agenda is really about joining forces. It's about joining forces among the key stakeholders, that is the public authorities, but also the social partners, companies, non-governmental organizations. Everybody has a role to play, and we really need to step up the efforts. We know that member states in general in Europe spend 0.5% of their GDP of the overall 4.5 that is devoted to education and training for the working age population. Most of the effort comes from companies, and that leaves out many adults, whether they are working age or not, because they are either not on standard contract and therefore do not benefit from training from their companies, or they are low skilled and hence tend not to undergo training, or are less motivated to undergo training. So joining forces is key, and you see it across the Pact for Skills. So there were lots of discussion going up into the skills agenda. Pact for Skills is about bringing all the actors in the economic area to join forces, whether they are public, private, NGOs, social partners, to really upskill and reskill the working population. Other initiatives is the individual learning account. This will come later in the year, looking at giving everyone the possibility to upskill and reskill. Or the initiative that we jointly are planning and preparing jointly with DG EAC on micro-credentials, because it's clearly that if you have a credential that you have done an upskilling and reskilling course, and what it means for your employer and for yourself, it also helps adults undertaking upskilling and reskilling, because we all know that adults are the most difficult target group in doing such training. And this is linking now up to what Margarida also said. One is joining forces, but also joining forces in putting different funding sources together, because it's clearly that the European level will not be able to shoulder all of this. So national, public and private and EU funding should be joined together to really give a big push, so that the 60% of adults undertaking upskilling and reskilling becomes a reality as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuela. Yes, in Lifelong Learning Platform, we keep saying that we learn lifelong and life-wide. So that means not only when we are adults, that means through all our life. And we have different representatives, different EU institutions from civil society, which represent different sectors. So yes, we are happy to see that you are concerned not only with the working age population, with the targets that were set also in the action plan and the recent policies. I would now like to give the floor to one more Portuguese present here, João Dias da Silva, member of the EESC. Please welcome to join us, and we are honored to have you here. The floor is yours.
Muito boa tarde, muito obrigado pelo convite, parabéns pela iniciativa, uma iniciativa extremamente importante, e começando desta forma, logo com esta partilha tão rica de experiências e de contributos para uma questão que é crucial e que é extremamente importante. Aproveito para saudar todos os participantes e particularmente os restantes membros deste painel. É uma honra integrar este conjunto de oradores e procurar trazer aqui aquilo que me foi pedido, que é conhecer, no âmbito deste painel, que pretende perceber como é que as instituições europeias definem a agenda europeia em termos de educação e formação, e como é que no Comitê Económico e Social Europeu se respondeu ao pedido que foi formulado pela presidência croata sobre o financiamento sustentável para a aprendizagem ao longo da vida e o desenvolvimento de competências no contexto da escassez de mão de obra qualificada. Queria começar por referir que o Comitê Económico e Social emite pareceres. O seu objetivo é emitir pareceres por sua iniciativa ou que são solicitados quer pelo Parlamento, quer pela Comissão, quer pelo Conselho. O Comitê emite pareceres, estes são enviados, estabelecendo desta forma uma ponte entre as instâncias de decisão da União Europeia e os cidadãos. Nós entendemos que a nossa preocupação se centra sobre 3 funções. Velar porque a política e a legislação da União Europeia atendem às condições económicas e sociais, tentando chegar a um consenso que seja favorável ao interesse geral. Promover uma União Europeia participativa, dando voz às organizações de trabalhadores e de empregadores e a outros grupos de interesse, e mantendo o diálogo entre todos os intervenientes. Finalmente, defender os valores da integração europeia e a causa da democracia participativa e das organizações da sociedade civil. Os membros do Comitê representam uma variedade de organizações da sociedade civil da Europa, incluindo empresas, sindicatos e outras partes interessadas, e os membros do Comitê integram um de 3 grupos, ou dos empregadores, ou dos trabalhadores, ou dos outros grupos de interesse. Eu incluo no grupo dos trabalhadores. Passando agora ao parecer em concreto que referi, solicitado pela presidência croata, diria que o pedido foi apresentado em setembro de 2019. Isto é, no semestre anterior, o que é prática comum das presidências do Conselho Europeu, com antecedência solicitar ao Comitê um conjunto de pareceres. E, portanto, a presidência croata ocorreu entre janeiro e junho de 2020, em 2019 foi feito o pedido ao Comitê. A mesa do Comitê determinou a elaboração do parecer, logo a seguir em setembro, e atribuiu o trabalho a uma das suas secções especializadas, que é a secção especializada do emprego, assuntos sociais e cidadania, e que no seu seio constituiu um grupo de estudo, constituído por um presidente, um relator, um correlator e ainda 9 membros, 3 de cada um daqueles grupos de que eu falei. 3 membros do grupo 1, empregadores, 3 membros do grupo 2, trabalhadores, 3 do grupo dos interesses vários. Além destes membros, e com vista à elaboração do documento, foram chamados 3 especialistas, tendo sido 2 designados pelo grupo 2, dos trabalhadores, e 1 pelo grupo 3, dos interesses vários. Houve reuniões destes grupos de estudo em 9 de dezembro de 2019 e 3 de fevereiro de 2020, tendo sido realizada, aliás, é exemplo do que acontece em várias outras oportunidades, uma audição no quadro da primeira reunião já referida e em que participaram um representante da presidência croata, um representante da Direção-Geral EMPL, do Emprego, Assuntos Sociais e Inclusão, um representante da Direção-Geral EAEA, Educação, Juventude e Desporto, um representante da Confederação Europeia de Sindicatos, um representante da SME United, da Associação de Pequenas e Médias Empresas, e um representante aqui da plataforma da aprendizagem da Lifelong Learning Platform, que hoje está a organizar este evento e, portanto, esteve presente participou nesta sessão de trabalho realizada no âmbito do grupo de estudos, de preparação do texto, que depois foi remetido primeiro para a secção especializada, onde foi aprovado, e depois para o plenário do Comitê, que o aprovou em março de 2020 em versão definitiva, com 254 votos a favor, 1 voto contra e 6 abstenções. Portanto, recolheu uma larguíssima convergência de perspectivas de todos estes grupos que constituem o Comitê. Cumpriu-se desta forma um processo em que o Comitê esteve diretamente envolvido. Mas é verdade que o trabalho do Comitê não se esgota aí, não se esgota nessa aprovação em plenário, porque o que vem a seguir à aprovação dos nossos pareceres é o mais importante. Porque o que é realmente mais importante é, em termos de consequências do trabalho que é desenvolvido na produção legislativa, nas ações concretas de que vierem a ser beneficiários os cidadãos europeus. E é consequência disto mesmo que é extremamente pertinente acompanhar agora o que consta das 21 conclusões e recomendações que constam do parecer e que na sua operacionalização representam o efeito último do contributo que o Comitê Económico e Social dá ao processo legislativo. O SES, o Comitê Económico e Social, procura ser muito concreto na identificação das medidas que devem ser dirigidas aos cidadãos europeus, como é o caso, neste parecer, da referência à definição de indicadores e de parâmetros de referência para a aprendizagem ao longo da vida, em particular a educação e formação de adultos, no âmbito dos quadros estratégicos pertinentes que foram já aqui tratados, o quadro estratégico para a cooperação europeia, no domínio da educação e formação. A Comissão Europeia também diz esse parecer do Comitê, deve assegurar que os instrumentos financeiros da União Europeia, como o Programa Erasmus+, o Fundo Social Europeu, o Plano de Investimento para uma Europa Sustentável, o Fundo para uma Transição Justa e outros fundos da União Europeia, devem apoiar a consecução destes parâmetros de referência de forma eficaz e em sinergia mútua. E, finalmente, só para referir mais um elemento das conclusões e recomendações deste parecer, o Comitê estava neste documento a que se chegasse a um acordo sobre um quadro de referência das competências essenciais que seja único e inclusivo, que vá para além do ensino escolar, respondendo-se dessa forma à necessidade da educação de adultos e da aquisição de competências para a vida, com destaque particular para a capacidade de aprender a aprender e para as competências de cidadania democrática, que são essenciais para ajudar os adultos a desempenharem um papel ativo na sociedade. Trouxe-vos desta forma aqui o desenho da forma como o Comitê Económico e Social elaborou o parecer que lhe foi pedido pela Presidência Croata e de que forma é que contribuiu para a produção da legislação e para a ação legislativa dentro da União Europeia. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Thank you very much, João. I think it was very clear, very objective what we heard from you. We are happy to see that also we have clear suggestions for including non-formal and informal learning, as we always keep mentioning in your suggestions, in your recommendations. So last but not the least, I would like to give the floor, because the time is getting very tight, and so I would like to give the floor to Chris Harrison, a former member of the steering committee of the Lifelong Learning Platform, who is on this panel on behalf of civil society, as we call it. So please go ahead, Chris, and welcome.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. I only wish I could be with you, although I'm very happy to say that in England, the temperature today is 26 degrees. So things are hotting up. I'm very, very pleased to have been invited to be with you all today, because one of the best bits about the last 20 years of my involvement at a European level was not being president of European schools. I did enjoy that, but what I really valued was the opportunity to be engaged and involved with the Lifelong Learning Group right from its inception. And over that time, as a group, it has grown and grown to, I think there are now near enough 40 member associations with lifelong learning. It's a huge opportunity to engage with all of our membership on just what the agenda, which the speakers have already today described, is the activity which goes on within the European Parliament and within the Commission and within the Council. Engaging and being part of that when you are within lifelong learning is a privilege and a responsibility, because taking part in the EEC SC, as João has already described, is a great opportunity, but you then have to use your network to be able to disseminate the information back to your membership. In the UK, I was president of an association with 40,000 school leaders. In Europe, we had nearly 90,000 school leaders. And it was really important that there could be the up and down and free flow of information and communication about what was happening and what opportunities they were to be able to engage and influence. And for that, that I will always be very, very grateful for that opportunity. But today, I think over this past 15 months, we've seen a situation, I can talk about schools, where they've been open, they've been closed, they've been partially open, partially closed, and it's presented extraordinary challenges for us in our schools, but with our communities, with our children, with our staff, with our parents. And as somebody's already referenced earlier, the role of schools is there for the education of children, but we are also quite often the major employer within communities. So unless, if you're not in a city, if you're in rural areas of Europe, the school is very often the largest employer. So you have responsibilities both for the education, but also for the employment of your staff and workforce. But schools and school leadership have recognized, I think, that the fairness, that social mobility and equality of opportunity have to now be at the core of any of the national recoveries that are really going to need to become successful in the coming years. So we've been thinking, what are the key areas that we should all keep in mind? What core principles? For me, one of them, the messages which has to come loud and clear is any recovery programs across Europe have to be for all children, all staff, all families, not just some. In the past, we've seen accountability systems offered in schools, which look to how we can generate success for some children, not for all children. But this is a time, I think, when we have to move to the all, not just the some. And that should apply, I think, to early years, nursery education, schools, higher education, further education, vocational education, where we now will see a genuine commitment to the lifelong learning entitlement, and a point that's already been made about training, upskilling, retraining continually as part of your adult life as a learner. I'm not going to go on for an awful lot of time, but I think that learner support and learner support needs are going to be additional, and that we're going to need new models of tutoring and additional support in order that there can be catch-up programs for our young people. We see today that so many of our nursery and early years settings closed during the last 12 months or have hardly been open at all. The impact of that reduced experience on children who've not yet started school is going to be a particular challenge, I think, in order that disadvantages don't become magnified and that children can partake right the way through their school 6 years with success. To conclude, what I would really say is that it must be so important that we don't waste time and we don't waste money with any recovery and national recovery programs in the coming years. We have to have the value for money aspect there. And that value for money aspect, I think, has to be informed by research, by policy, and by practice. And it's the relationship of research, policy, and practice that I think Lifelong Learning Group provides a real opportunity to share that communication conduit, that channel between all relevant parties. So my organisation in European schools, we are very happy to work with lifelong learning and with each of the successive EU presidencies in order to work on what is going to be a common agenda for us all and a common challenge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I think it was good to hear about the link you made about research, policy and practice. It gives us well, some kind of clue on how to proceed now for some questions. I would like some of you to respond according to your preference, of course, because actually what we would like to achieve with this debate, which is effectively about cooperation, and we are a platform for cooperation as lifelong learning platform. So I would like to start with the question which was supposed to be the last one, because I see that we have only 6 minutes. So my question will be the one in which I am very, very curious to see what you have to tell me, which is, what is the secret for civil society organizations to add an issue to your agenda? How can we influence you very directly? My question is, are there any tips, any tricks, anything that can help us on putting the learners in the center of your agenda, on putting our issues for cooperation in the top of your agendas? Feel free, I don't know who wants to start kicking the discussion. We cannot let everyone answer, but I'll give you the chance to tell me about it, because I'm quite sure the audience is quite looking forward to listen to you.
Bom, talvez posso eu começar de uma forma muito rápida. Espero que me estejam a ouvir. Eu julgo que neste momento todas as partes envolvidas nos processos de discussão e de implementação daquilo que nós podemos denominar de políticas de educação e informação, têm vindo a mudar nos últimos anos, ou seja, cada vez mais temos vindo a assistir, por um lado, a vontade expressa de, digamos, as instituições, quer do ponto de vista nacional, e estou a falar sobretudo dos governos, quer as próprias instituições europeias, a abrir um espaço para que, de facto, a sociedade civil, as organizações, as entidades e partes interessadas, pelo menos em matéria de educação e formação, têm vindo também a poder apresentar as suas ideias, os seus pensamentos, as suas perspectivas, e têm vindo a ser cada vez mais parceiros imprescindíveis nas políticas, porque as políticas também são feitas, digamos, são destinadas aos cidadãos, e se não podemos ter os próprios cidadãos a que se destinam essas mesmas políticas envolvidos na discussão, envolvidas inclusivamente na tomada de decisão, não é possível avançar. E eu acho que isso tem vindo a acontecer cada vez mais, não sei, naquilo que se refere às políticas públicas, e nomeadamente em matéria de educação e formação. Vou apenas dar um exemplo. A presidência portuguesa promoveu a semana passada, segunda-feira, uma reunião de alto nível sobre educação digital. E em vez de termos um evento que reunisse, digamos, os ministérios, todos os que ao nível dos Estados-membros e também com a Comissão tratam a matéria de educação digital, o que a presidência portuguesa preferiu foi 2 momentos distintos, e o primeiro momento foi uma manhã inteira entre representantes da sociedade civil, organizações, entidades, associações nacionais, europeias, no âmbito da educação, inclusivamente o tecido empresarial, discute-se de uma forma aberta a matéria. E esse tem que ser cada vez mais o caminho. E eu não vou dizer mais nada porque, com certeza, os meus colegas de painel também quererão intervir na matéria. Mais uma vez, muito obrigada pelo convite. Muito obrigada.
Thank you. I was now mixing both languages. I see that our MEP and also DG EAC wants to say something about this topic. So, Margarida, please.
Muito obrigada, só para fazer, muito obrigada, Susana, só para fazer aqui uma sugestão. Como sabem, foi lançado a Conferência sobre o Futuro da Europa. E o objetivo da Conferência sobre o Futuro da Europa é debater o futuro da Europa com os cidadãos, com as organizações não governamentais, com os cidadãos europeus. E foi criada uma plataforma. E, portanto, a sugestão que eu deixo aqui é que cada um de vocês, ligados a escolas, ligados a centros de informação europeia, ligadas a outro tipo de instituições, de pessoas, de organizações não governamentais, de outro tipo de associações, possam, de facto, organizar iniciativas para debater o futuro da Europa. E podem usar esta plataforma para fazer essa iniciativa. A única coisa que precisam é de assumir que respeitam as regras do funcionamento da plataforma. E podem fazer este debate centrado na educação. Ou seja, temos aqui, e é a minha sugestão, a Janine deu uma resposta mais elaborada, eu limito-me a dar uma sugestão, ou seja, utilizemos esta plataforma para fazer o debate sobre o futuro da educação e para mobilizar os cidadãos europeus a fazerem esse debate. Eu costumo dizer que o grande desafio desta conferência é mobilizar aqueles que tradicionalmente não participam no debate sobre a Europa. E o debate sobre a Europa não é um debate vazio, é um debate concreto. Neste caso, o debate sobre a educação. Muito obrigada.
That is really what we want to get. So we want to make our debate narrower, and it will become. We are on the process. We have now Jula Chere. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce correctly your name on behalf of the GIAC. We tried our best.
Thanks very much, Susana. You did perfectly. Thanks very much indeed. Well, I asked for the floor while Janine has been speaking, and then Margarida came in, so they fully covered the everything what I would have ever wanted to say. So let me just say, because you asked about the trips, the tricks and tips, and I know that normally there is no place for flattery in this kind of conferences and webinars, but I think the tricks and tips pretty much to do what the lifelong learning platform is doing. So I think you are really you're really ahead of the curve, and thanks to your devotion and enthusiasm and a huge network, I think this is clearly the recipe. And then each and every time we try to encourage our stakeholders to do the same. We have received thousands and thousands of replies and position papers for the Digital Education Action Plan, open public consultation for the European Education Area Roadmap. We hope that you will have seen that we did our best to include your positions in these key papers. We are in almost day-to-day discussions with the presidency represented by Janine and other the trio presidency and the council, how we can ensure that the stakeholder views are really taken into account, and again ensuring a discussion platform just like what you're doing now, in addition to one of those many services lifelong learning platform is providing for the whole education community and ecosystem. Please just carry on and count on us. We do our best to chip in as much as we can.
Thank you. I think that someone was telling us that Alberto, which is an activist on lifelong learning and well recognized in Portugal, he was telling us that it's good to see that lifelong learning platform is recognized for doing its job in European terms. I think the idea of this debate is also to see how we can move to national and regional platforms and how we can position ourselves in those terms. I think that Janine, Margarida, and also Jula, the three of you also answered to my second question, which would be examples on how to do it in practice. So we are 2 minutes late, but gaining some time in terms of answering the questions. And finally, I would like to give the floor to João Dias da Silva, which I bet he will also have something very important to tell us to conclude this panel.
Muito obrigado. Só muito rapidamente, para além de sublinhar o desafio que a Margarida aqui colocou, acho extremamente importante e queria estar plenamente de acordo com ela e incentivar todos a participarmos neste debate, a utilizarmos a plataforma. Esta é uma forma de intervenção que deve ser acionada. A diversidade, o dinamismo e a capacidade de intervenção das organizações da sociedade civil e o grau de compromisso e envolvimento das pessoas são fatores importantíssimos para o bom funcionamento do regime democrático. Não basta anunciá-lo, é preciso praticá-lo. Isto pratica-se desta forma. Muitas vezes, durante muito tempo, a participação da sociedade civil foi sobretudo valorizada como observadora, interveniente, em função daquilo que era o conhecimento que tem do terreno e da sua proximidade em relação às populações, deve continuar a existir, mas a sua intervenção é hoje cada vez mais abrangente, vai da construção à implementação e avaliação dessas políticas. É preciso criar espaços para que as organizações dos diferentes setores da sociedade civil possam apresentar as suas posições. Mas também temos de ter uma preocupação muito grande, é de que essa consulta não pode ser considerada como um fim em si mesmo, e que depois não tem qualquer tipo de seguimento e influência na tomada de decisão. E se for assim, ela torna-se inconsequente e as pessoas perdem o sentido da participação. Estamos a desvalorizar aquilo que devia ser valorizado e, portanto, o truque é não vamos nunca deixar de aproveitar oportunidades para fazer sentir às pessoas que a sua participação foi importante, que o seu contributo foi importante, está a ser importante e é reconhecido, que tem significado e que tem impacto. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, João. I think you just said something very, very important, which is if we are taking part in public consultations, for example, and if we are asked to give our opinion as civil society, either as individuals, either as institutions, if we want to participate, then we want to be heard. And let's see how the recovery and resilience plans at national level will effectively be the mirror of our efforts and suggestions and recommendations. I see that Chris wants to conclude and wants to say something also. Please, 30 seconds, Chris.
Yeah, one of the things that ESHA, European School Heads Association, does do is produces a quarterly online news booklet, which goes to all members in all countries right across Europe. And that often has in the past carried news from conferences such as this, or even we've at times been used and worked with the Commission in order to be able to get key messages which they would like to be received at all levels in schools. So the invitation is there. Let's see how we could all use our communication channels better.
Okay, thank you very much. I now see that Manuela also wants to have her 30 seconds. And it's fair enough, so please.
Yes, I was not planning to intervene, but as everybody has intervened, I wish to do so as well. Just to say that we have very good examples of how civil society can make the point. And for instance, if I refer to, with the concrete examples, to the Council recommendation on validation of non-formal and informal learning, that came precisely because it was civil society to push for it. And today we see how important it is, because it was a building block of the skills agenda. It will be a key building block for the micro-credentials and for the individual learning account initiatives. So your voices need to be heard because they are really important. They are there to make any policy making pluralistic and legitimate, and address the issues on the ground.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we all it's unanimous that we can say that we had a very rich panel. We were so happy that you all confirmed and could be here to give your opinion, to give your feedback on how cooperation can be done at EU level. We will now move to a break, and after the break, we will move to the labs. So what we will do is a 10-minute break. During that break, you don't need to turn yourself off. You can stay in the session, pick your cup of tea or whatever you would like to, and then we will come back for 6 breakout sessions, which are the labs that we are preparing and expecting so much from them. The 6 labs will be about empowering teachers and educators, schools and pedagogies, experimenting in vet, academic cooperation, the non-formal sector, and learning mobility. What we will do after these 10 minutes is that you will be automatically allocated to your workshop that you have set in your preferences according to your registration form. So you don't need to be concerned. You will be automatically allocated to a workshop when you come back. Well, if you have any questions or problems, you have the Lifelong Learning Platform support colleagues. They are identified. Just contact them. So I wish you all a nice break. Thank you again to our panelists, to all the participants, and let's come back after 10 minutes, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I think most of us are back in the room, so I would thank you all for having participated in the breakout rooms, and we are now going to talk about forward thinking and action points, and that will be my colleague Tamara from the steering committee of the Lifelong Learning Platform. Please, Tamara.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Arja. I hope that everybody's well after the presentations and after the breakout rooms. We have 66 superheroes that are still here with us and looking forward to forward-thinking action plans. And I really hope that once we go through all the points that we have been discussing in the 6 different sessions, we will have a lot of interesting things to point out and to take not only as food for thought, but food for action in a way for the period to come. So what were we discussing in breakout rooms? Maybe we can share the screen potentially, if that's already possible. And see what was the discussion about. Basically, we were talking about the challenges and please access the Miro board. Okay, that's a good point that I should be actually sharing with you. So what are we going to do now? We are going to see all the workshops that have been happening in the last 50 minutes. And when you access the Miro board, which you will see in your chat, you will find all the interesting points discussed, and not only in your own group. So please do take some time to check the link and to get familiar a bit with what has been discussed. If you have any issue with accessing the Miro board, oh, here it is. Now you can see it here as well. LLLP Secretariat is here actually to support you. So I hope that you are there, that you can see everything that has been shared in the screen, and I will try to do that myself. apparently not being the best Miro user ever. So what were we doing? Please, so when you access the Miro board, you will be able to scroll on your own through the, let's say, conclusions of every breakout room. And in the meantime, I will lead you briefly through each one of them. And after that, we will be actually voting. So you will have the time to vote by clicking on the examples or notes that have been shared from each of the groups. As you know, we were discussing in each of the sessions the following three things. Why did you feel the need to establish such cooperation on the topic that you were discussing? What areas or aspects of the EU local agenda did you want to address, change, or impact? The next one was related to challenges. So what kind of challenges did you encounter? What were the lessons learned? And how did this cooperation impact the local political agenda and the EU political agenda? It's never easy to talk about impact, I guess. But let's go briefly through each of the groups. Empowering educators. It's important to empower teachers at all levels. There are different examples of and areas of work that you can work to empower them. So trainings, bridging sectors at different levels, challenges as in every group that we had, probably COVID-19 effects, and some of the lessons learned were the work done in one country can influence and start reform in other countries. And that's probably also the benefit of having EU cooperation or European cooperation. There are different examples of impact that you can see in your screen. Some of them come from our member organization, Euroclio. Then if we go back, and sorry for me shifting a bit like this, but schools and pedagogies, there are different things that you could see there as well. Cross-sector cooperation builds a collective potential that benefits all that benefits the plight of all education. Then there are different examples there as well, and small letters that I'm seeing. So I hope that you can also move it a bit and zoom it. Cooperation is based on trust, and that's a very important thing. But trust and trusting each other indeed can be sometimes a challenge. Change starts with the curriculum. That's also an important thing. Putting priority higher in the agenda when it comes to learning mobility, working on wider inclusion of different perspectives. But then as a challenge, we have different dynamics in different sectors. And what can we impact when it comes to learning mobility is to create momentum for a cultural shift. Moving on, academic cooperation, you will see there that using research for mutual benefit of community has been one of the reasons why the cooperation has started. There has been, when it comes to challenges, it was challenging to balance excellence and practical relevance, also funding. Well, I guess that one goes always for all. But what has been an impact is that it changed local communities and the topics that are relevant for the communities. And there we go to non-formal sector. Why? Because cross-sectoral cooperation is essential to improve our work. What is the challenge? Recognition of skills and qualifications. Yeah, the long-lasting issue of non-formal education and non-formal sector. No mention of the impact. I guess maybe we will get it in the meantime. And then we have the last but not least, experimenting in VET or VET. What was the need for cooperation? Moving activities online when pandemic started. That was also something that was discussed in other groups, I would assume. But there is a mention of area to change, quality assurance in the assessment process online, One of the challenges, transparency, information, and guidelines, but also recognition of diplomas and qualifications in that sector, something similar to non-formal education, different, but still similar, and the impact of EU cooperation, the Copenhagen Declaration, as well as impact of mobility in that and EU dimension in that. So these are some of the things. If you would like to comment on anything specific, or if you would like to add, please add your comments in chat. Especially if you would like to comment on something that maybe you find relevant for some of the groups, topics that you might know a bit more, but you were not part of that group. Feel free, because everything that we hear from you, we will be actually using to define forward-thinking actions and points. However, not to listen to me too long, I will ask Andrea to open the floor for voting. So what will you be doing? You will be now able to click on the mirror and on every note and vote, I believe, only once per note. So whatever you agree with, please vote now. As you can see, there are a lot of options that you can click on. The only thing that you need to do, go a bit through the board again, zoom in, zoom out, and then click on the plus for everything that you actually agree with. Okay, we see that COVID-19 unfortunately did get a point already. And we have a comment in our chat. In our group, it was also said that key action 1, mobility should be possible for NGOs that are not eligible at the moment. I think that we all find key action 1 extremely important in learning mobility. We also had very interesting discussions how to start up programs and then motivate people, how to communicate and motivate them to join, but then what to do when you're back. Pedro says, great session. He will be leaving. We will also not be keeping you too long, just a bit more to vote and to tell us your opinion on the points that you can see in Miro, or you can also leave your comments in the chat. Thank you very much, Pedro, of course, for joining and being with us today. Let's see, we have only a couple of votes here. So COVID-19 got 1 point. Then funding, sustainability of financial political support, division of responsibility. Yeah, I guess 2 points and 2 challenges that we are all facing. It's of course COVID-19, unfortunately, but funding has been a long-lasting issue for all of us. However, sometimes it's also interesting to try to put to turn a challenge into an opportunity. And that's definitely not an easy thing to do. Let's see what's happening in our Miro board. If you have any ideas, additionally, as I was saying, please leave them in the chat, or if you want, you can also vote and vote and vote and vote for different things. Let me see what's the situation here. Many movements and many different things being pointed out, people voting. So please do join as well. I think that we have a couple of more seconds to vote, 2 minutes. So 1 minute. So please use the time to point out what you believe is important when it comes to cross-sectoral cooperation. Is it challenges? Is it impact that you've seen already at the local level? Or is it something that you've seen, okay, this was also the need that we had local or European level or specific project. There is also what I'm seeing here while the board is moving, using the research, and that's something that is important because sometimes in different sectors, some are using research more, some less. Maybe when we combine, we can get some really brilliant ideas and changes at different levels. Non-formal education promoting active citizenship, democracy, and social inclusion. I see it here, if I'm not mistaken, in a challenge. But indeed, combined with many different things, it can indeed be a challenge to do that. And then, as we already seen, recognition of diplomas in VET sector, it's very similar in non-formal education as well. So we have some more time left, and that time is up. So let's see, we're closing the voting now. Let's see what did we get and what did we agree most on. Results are being processed. You can see the results on your screen, and I will try to go through them, at least some of them. Thank you very much, Gloria. See you tomorrow indeed. Collective potential that benefits the plight of all education. The next one is a bit too small to read from where I am, but it's important to empower teachers at all levels, individuals or associations. It's one of some of these points did get the most of your votes. And again, unfortunately, COVID-19 effects, but as it is a challenge, I hope that we will be learning from it and maybe changing our habits because, or practices, because in the end of the day, that's something that we will need to do. Change starts with the curriculum, indeed, and that curriculum can be also cross-sectoral. And with that, I will close this forward thinking, have this as whatever was written and whatever was discussed, have that as food for thoughts. And please do come back tomorrow to discuss further. I would like to thank you all for joining and for staying. And I will pass the floor now to my colleague, João, for the closing part of the day.
I thought you were going to take all my thunder and thank everyone and stuff like that.
Not at all.
No, I think it's, I'd like to thank everyone for, from the speakers to all the participants, and what an embracing sort of afternoon in respect to, on policy level, national level. And I think it's been absolutely really, really interesting, really stimulated thought. And I think it's everyone we speak to is on the same wavelength, on the same areas and stuff like that. So I'd like to thank everyone. I think it's been a great, like I say, I think we mentioned as well that, thank you to the LLLP, all the backroom staff that puts this together and all the effort, they put an agenda for us and say to us, can you attend and do this? And they do all the work for us. So I think, it's a great applause to them as well to get this up. And I think it's been for the software, fantastic, no glitch. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. So I appreciate it, guys, for making it easy for us as well. I think, like I say, it's been great sessions, but like I say, tomorrow, we're looking at Life National. We invite everyone to come tomorrow. Please come along. We've got some real good sessions, real good speakers. Another sort of look at the national level, Portuguese national level for us ourselves as well. So I encourage you all to come along. One thing I would like everyone to do if they can, and I think it's put in my notes to ask this as well. So it's everyone to put their cameras on to make a nice funny face to actually get a picture. So whatever funny face you mean, Susana's starting us off. I don't know. I think Andre will tell us when we need to be doing it. He's going to ready when he's going to sort of take the picture. So Susana's come up with 2 at the moment. I'm trying to think of one. So I'm trying to. Are you ready?
That's all right. I would like to ask you to make a very, very big smiley face and to hold it for a few seconds. Do you think it will be possible? So 1, 2, 3. And hold it and hold it and hold it. That's all right. Thank you very much.
I've never held a smile that long in my life, to be honest. So there we go. But no, I think, you know, thank you very much, everyone. Much appreciated. Like I say, from the you know, from everyone involved, and you know, really, you know, on board tomorrow. Make sure we're all ready there, sort of 5 or 10 minutes prior to the start, so we can all get in and really enjoy the morning session. So, like I say, some really good speakers, and as we had today as well, and some really good session as we had today. So, thank you very much. And I think, apart from anyone else, I think we're happy to say goodbye and have a good evening. Like I say, in the UK, we're 26, 27 degrees, so we'll hopefully be able to enjoy the evening. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
The same in Brussels. Sunny
Is it?
day. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
In Brussels. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Thank you. See you tomorrow.